So let's check the other examples. So we have the authorities close the airport. So the authorities, that's the doer of the action. Closed, that's my verb in the simple past. And the airport, that's the receiver. So I want to change this. I'm gonna start by the airport. And then I'm gonna need was or were. In this case, was, because it's just one. The airport was, and my verb in past participle. Closed. That's it. The airport was closed. We're not using the doer because the doer is not important. But if the doer was important to mention, then we would use it. Okay, for example, like in this sentence, Van Gogh painted the Starry Night. So this is the name of the painting, right? Van Gogh is the doer, painted is the action, and the Starry Night, that's the object or receiver. So now I'm gonna start with the Starry Night. Was painted by Van Gogh. And in this case, I'm mentioning the doer of the action because this doer is important, right? So, by Van Gogh. But if we were just saying by people, by a kid, by something like that, it's not important. So we're not going to use it in the passive, the doer of the action. The third example is a teenager saw two birds in a yard. A teenager saw two birds in a yard. Okay, a teenager, that's the doer. Saw, that's the verb in the simple past. Two birds, that's the receiver. In a yard, object, right? I mean, complement, sorry. So let's change that. We're gonna start with the receiver. Two birds. And because this is plural, right? So I'm gonna use were instead of was. Two bears were. And careful with this verb because saw is the simple past of the verb see, but the past participle it's not saw, it's seen. Two birds were seen in a yard. And I'm not mentioning the doer of the action because a teenager is not important, right? Then, the accident didn't injure the passengers. That one is negative, okay? Negative. So far, we've only seen affirmative sentences. This is the first negative sentences that we see. The accident didn't injure the passengers. All right, so the accident, that's the doer, didn't injure, that's the verb. The passengers, receiver. So now I start with the receiver. The passengers were not. Okay, so weren't. The passengers weren't, and then my verb in the past participle, injured. The passengers weren't injured. So the passengers is receiver, now subject, weren't injured, and I'm not mentioning the doer of the action, but you could do it by the accent. Accident. All right. And then on page 121, we have the same thing about using by if the doer of the action is important. And the other thing is the adverbs with passive, the column that you have here. Adverbs with the passive. Okay. So if you're using an adverb to express a certain degree of the action, you're going to put it between the verb to be and the main verb. So a mole was damaged becomes a mole was right here badly damaged. Right? So between the verb to be and the main verb, you put the adverb. No one was seriously injured. No one was injured. No one was seriously injured. And you continue with the same thing, just placing the adverb between the verb to be and the main verb. Alright, so have fun solving exercise 2A on page 121 and exercise 2A of page 119. See you guys. Thank you. If you have any doubts, please send me a message on Google Classroom.